much any Linux distro, terminal and Firefox and browser, they are the first two, and then comes the rest. So under accessories, I don't know, you have some stupid things that you would use for your daily affairs. Oh, by the way, the equivalent of Notepad in Linux, I would definitely say that it's gedit, except it has like a ton load of more capabilities and options. There we go, definitely, but we're not, we can use it a little bit later on, but we'll mainly be using text editors in the terminal. So you can just go ahead and close that. If we go further down below, okay, so documentation, graphics, nothing there. Oh, come on, internet. Okay, so nothing there. Excellent. Under Office. So here you have like LibreOffice Writer, which is Word, or LibreOffice Impress. I think that's the one for presentations in the Office package. I'm pretty sure that you know to which I am referring to. A PowerPoint. Tip of my tongue, but couldn't really remember. So LibreOffice Impress is basically PowerPoint, if I'm not mistaken. LibreOffice Draw, I think it's an equivalent of Paint or something of a kind, and LibreOffice Calc, which is basically Excel. If we go down further below, we got sound, video. Okay, so Cheese is for your webcam. Just so you know, you can utilize your webcam with Cheese. Baresso is for burning CDs, but we can do all of these. You can burn CDs through via the terminal as well without any sort of problems. If we go down below, Sundry. Okay, so we got SE Linux Troubleshooter. Print settings, not that important. Firewall, excellent. So you have the graphical user interface for the firewall, and if we go ahead and click on it, we're going to be prompted with a root password that's gonna, oops, actually no, are you serious? And if I select this, oh no, okay, there will be a root password. That'd be hilarious if there wasn't anything here. I would see if it didn't prompt me for a root password, then I could do pretty much whatever I wanted to the firewall. I would disavow, I would completely disavow Red Hat, completely and utterly. Anyway, here you can, but fortunately it does require the password. Here you can pretty much do anything with the firewall, and firewall in Linux is open source. Its capabilities are practically infinite. You can do whatever you want with it. There is pretty much nothing that you would need that you cannot do with a Linux firewall. It's amazing. I don't know, I'm sure you can find something and make me eat my own words, but you get the general idea. So you can decide what services do you want to allow, what ports, you got port forwarding, ICMP filter, this is for pinging, and so on and so forth. But look, all of this we will do later via the terminal, as that is the proper way of doing this, because on a server you don't have a graphical user interface and you have to do with what you have. Primarily because graphical user interfaces are resource expensive, and they waste RAM, they waste CPU, and you don't want them, plus all the power rests in the terminal, the almighty terminal. Anyway, so go back to applications. Sundry, we were here. SC Linux is your, how shall I put this? Is your, let's say, antivirus system, or a way of tightening down security eternally. We will deal with that later on, as it will it will play a major role in this course. If you go down to system tools, you got settings, boxes, and a lot of things here, but I'm going to continue talking about that in the follow-up tutorial, as I am running a bit of short on time here, and there are a few things to which I wish to introduce you here as well, just so you know that you can access them this way as well, and more often than not on a desktop you will need to as well. Until then, I bid you farewell. Welcome back, everybody. Let's just continue. So in the application section, go down to system tools, and here you have like a lot of interesting things. So for example, you have a system monitor, which is a very nice utility. I will show you an equivalent of it in the terminal, which people do tend to use quite often. So you have file systems. You can take a look at them. They are listed here. Come on. Yep, there we go. So run media, random guy, VBox, guest additions. That is the mount point of my guest additions. So that's when it's used 100%, which is which is the way it's supposed to be. But you can also see pretty much everything else. Let's go into processes. Here you can take a look at all the processes that are currently running on your system. If there was anything, well, after a while, I know it seems when you look at it like this kind of complicated and you don't know what is what and you wouldn't be able to tell apart a malicious thing from a benevolent thing. Over the course of time, over when you start using it, when you learn about it, when you use it on a daily basis or something of a kind, and you pass the Red Hat certification for a system administrator, eventually you just need to take a look at this once and you pretty much know what each one of these things does. Or in 99% of the, or in those 1% of the cases out of 99%, you have a vague idea of what that process is, and then you can figure it out from there. But believe me, people can just glimpse at this and pretty much know what each one of these does relatively fast with relative ease. Anyway, in addition to that, you got the user that's running those processes, a random guy. That is me. That is my username that I have created. Yours is probably different. I hope to God that you didn't copy mine. I strongly urge you to type in whatever you wish. And in addition to that, we have the amount of resources that our current processes are consuming. So you can see most of them are pretty much idle. But this one, the GNOME shell, is consuming 32% of the CPU, has this ID which can be used to actually kill the process, and then we have 573, what is this, megabytes, I think. Hold on. Let me just expand it. Yep, it's 573 megabytes of RAM, which is a fairly expensive process in comparison to pretty much everything else that is running here. However, there are better tools which we will use in the terminal and that will give you better overview of the entire situation, but know that this exists. Okay, so let's just close it, go back to our place, system tools, and there we go. So it says Red Hat Subscription Manager. You can configure your subscriptions here if you want other sort of registrations. What I really want to do is go ahead and click on software. And here you can actually search for different sort of packages, so backup client, let's see, just selected. And this is basically a graphical user interface for the installation of various packages, of various software programs, etc. So you can pretty much find whatever is in the repositories here. However, people don't tend to use this one as it is a GUI. But again, another one of those things that you should know that it exists. And all those, for example, on Windows, on Android, and on Mac, you know how they say, oh, it's amazing, you have this store, and you go there and you can download software immediately from there. Well, let me just tell you, Linux had that from the very beginning. Like from the very beginning. Well, maybe not the first Linux that ever came out, but it's pretty close. I'm sure of it. Pretty much people have just been pulling software from the official repositories for as long as I know. So long before Windows, long before Apple, Mac OS X, and definitely long before Android, Linux had repositories from which people always kept on pulling software to install onto their machines, as it is a fairly secure way of doing that, as all that software that is there is checked by the repository maintainers. Anyway, it's a very nice thing to have, but we're going to use a terminal one, which is fairly simple to use. It's called Yum, and I will show you fairly well how to use it. You will become proficient with it, so you don't have to worry about it. Another thing here is the system log. Now, even though most people tend to do these things in the terminal, the system log here, the tool, it gives you a rather nice overview of the things. So if you just type, you do require a root password in order to review the logs, as is to be expected. So you have of various processes here, of various things that have happened. You have their logs and you can see what is going on. This is especially important for troubleshooting. I would even argue that this is better than the terminal, as it gives a bit of a better overview of the existing logs, and then you can just